Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check them out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
A clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
If you like paranormal, true crime, cryptids, or anything else weird, check out the Ouch Was That a Ghost podcast brought to you by your host Liz. You can find Ouch Was That a Ghost on Spotify, Apple, or any other audio platform. New episodes drop every Thursday.
Alrighty, welcome back to Twisted Tales, folks. So today's little tale, we're going to touch base on musician Daryl Davis. Now, he was born March 26, 1958. So Daryl here, this is a pretty cool little tale, kind of piqued my interest. Now, just a little bit about what this story is about here. Daryl's a rhythm and blues musician. Rhythm and blues is actually a genre of music that's really popular, originates within African American communities. So cultural origins started off around the 1940s, 1950s, shit like that. So this would include like instruments such as like drums, electric guitar, piano, which Daryl played, and saxophone. Now over the years, R&B was mainly applied to blues records, more so in the 50s, but it played its part and contributed to rock and roll over time. I mean, look at, like, example here, Johnny B. Good and Back to the Future. Now, this guy was no joke either, like, straight up, the real fucking deal. So, he played with the greats, like, there was, Jerry Lee Lewis, B.B. King, Chuck Berry, like, that's just a few that he performed with, and he's still very much active in the music industry today. Now, Daryl was born in Sweet Home fucking Chicago. Now, his dad was the Department of State, like a foreign services officer, so this caused Daryl to move around a lot, different parts of the world, and a lot of different foreign countries. Now, the schools that he attended were of many nations, races, cultures, and they were all schooled and learning together. And this is how it should be, right? Like, well, you know, there shouldn't be any racism, anything like that, but after like 10 years of that, he returned back to the United States. So he joined the Cub Scout pack. This was in Belmont. There's that word again. Massachusetts. So, the club prior to this had been an all-white club. So, I mean, different times, folks. I mean, even with that, like, racism still exists today, and that's bullshit. Like, everyone should be able to get along, help each other out. I mean, it's 2024. I mean, I don't know, this world's fucking scarier now than what it ever fucking was. While Daryl was in the club, there ended up being a local parade, and this is where he was struck with rocks and bottles from the crowd, to which club members actually had to surround little Daryl, so he'd stop getting pelted with shit. So being young and everything like that, he kind of integrated over there with like the other cultures while at school growing up before he went back, right? So he didn't really understand all the negativity from people about racism. This wasn't until he talked to his father about the incident at the parade. So his dad, this was his very first conversation about racism to Daryl, and that's something that, going forward, will kind of shape like his future activities and go into the story that I'm about to tell. So not soon after, he got into the music scene, kicked major ass, and he earned a bachelor's degree here. That was in music from Howard University. So Howard University is a private, federally chartered historical black research university established March 2nd, 1867. So that's about 157 years old. Now, the school offers up like graduate and professional degrees with more than 120 programs. So Daryl's music career had a lot of different styles. Like, over the years, he did jazz, blues, rock and roll, boogie woogie. And these variations, like, they ended up being quite popular, so they gained a lot of listeners. So this landed him a lot of gigs. So back in 1983, he landed a gig at the Silver Dollar Lounge in Frederick, Maryland. Now, Frederick, Maryland has a city population of roughly 79,000 as of 2021, so would be a little less back then in 83, I would imagine. So he was the only black man at this place, and not like that bothered him at all, but he was there to play music and jam out. He didn't give a fuck about that. Now, this would be his first country music gig, and the band ended up playing a wicked set afterwards, and, like, Daryl, he was approached by an older fella who actually praised his performance, because, like, he played with the style of Jerry Lee Lewis, but he kind of added in that he'd never seen a black man who could do this, and it was kind of like a little jab to Daryl, like a little, you know, not something that you'd actually say, like you'd praise his performance and then go, but, you know, because of your skin color and everything, like, people are just shit. Although this remark didn't really bother Davis, it was more so for, like, curiosity. He was just intrigued by it. So he explained to the man that he actually played with Lewis, and that the two were friends. But the man didn't believe him, but he did have a fascination with the whole music genre. So the man invited him back to his table for a drink. Davis didn't drink, so he ordered up a cranberry juice. The two cheersed, and then they sat down to conversate. Now, the words from the man to Davis were, "This is the first time I've ever sat down with a black man." Curiosity then again got the best of him, so he asked, like, what's up with that, right? Now, it came up that the man was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Intrigued by this is where Davis kind of found, like, his calling, you know, beside his side quest to music and whatnot, right? So he started meeting up with other KKK members, and over time, many of them had various ranks within the organization. So he kind of, like, dug deep into this. Now, the conversation with the man of the silver dollar, this brought up combos of just pure fucking hatred, and this spanned decades. Like, the Klan was founded back in, 1865. Now, this was by a group of Confederate soldiers, mainly to spread terror in pursuit of white supremacist agendas. Now, originally, this started back in Pulaski, Tennessee, and the groups ended up, like, the name ended up coming from the Greek word, kaikos, meaning circle, but the word Klan had been added more so afterwards for alliteration. Now, once established as a southern white underground resistance, the Klan members had sought for the restoration of white supremacy through intimidation, violence, and this was all aimed at the slaves who had been recently set free. Now, a similar organization had started back in Louisiana back in 1867. Now, this was dubbed the Knights of White Camellia, one of those two. So all this white supremacy shit was just, like, caked with natural superiority, right? Violence mostly just to achieve their goals.
On the Mortal Musings podcast, we like to take the cases seriously, but not ourselves. Each week on the Mortal Musings podcast, your hosts Neil and Megan get into either a true crime case or a truly macabre story, followed by a strange and interesting tale of oddity. Join us as we venture into the dark and disturbing world of the Mortal Musings. New episodes every Wednesday, available wherever you get your podcasts.
During the 1950s and 60s here, the Klan had gained, like, massive followings in the white power movement. Now, these chapters are pretty much still around today, very consistently, and that's fucking really unfortunate. In 2018 alone, there was a record high of over 1,000 hate groups. Now, these turned into, like, rallies and whatnot, so that included, like, giant burning crosses, beer, hot dogs, racial stereotypes, and that kind of stuff just stapled their form in the racial foundation. Now, Davis took notes from members, and this guy, like, even acted on shit. Like, he was a tough motherfucker, so props to him. Now, like, what could bring Davis to meet up with, like, the likes of these folk? Because, like, the guy was just a successful musician, right? And it was mainly for answers to questions surrounding racism in the country. And even when he questioned people, like, that threw the bottles at him that day during the parade, like, he said, like, how can you hate me? You don't even know me. And to that, the reply was like, oh, some people are just like that. And that just didn't really settle the hash for Big Dog here. Now, Davis, he wanted to get to the bottom of it all. Like, what does just like that mean? Where does it come from? Like, you're not just born like that, he says. So, like I said, curiosity and whatnot about the racism, like, that happened ever since that day at the parade. And even today, like, he states that no one can really seem to find the answer to it all. Now, these questions eventually led him to his encounter with the Grand Dragon, Robert Kelly. And over time, Kelly became the Imperial Wizard of Maryland. So, how this meeting, like, kind of all shook down was that it had been set up by Davis's secretary. Can't talk. Now, this was under the pretense of Davis, like, including him in a book that would have a documentary feel to it about the KKK. So this was going to be, like, way deeper than a barroom conversation. This meeting here, now this would totally end up shocking the Grandmaster, because over the phone, all he heard was, hey, this guy wants to do an interview on you for a fucking book he's writing. They never mentioned color, skin tone, anything. So he didn't know that he was black until he showed up. But they ended up having hours on end combos anyway, and this actually strengthened their friendship of the two men. Fucking odd as it was, right? Now, Davis was even invited into his home. All the conversations that they had, it sort of changed the wizard's view on things, so he quit the clan entirely and shut down that chapter. And as kind of a trophy, he gave Davis his clan robe. And this is pretty cool. Like, Davis just an awesome dude, right? Like, standing up for his beliefs, even getting some members to quit the clan entirely. Like, that whole chapter got shut down. Like, that's fucking awesome. Now, even the eras that this man lived through, like, is wild. Like, everything from the assassination of King back in '68 to, like, the Unite to Right rally up in Charlottesville. That was in 2017, Virginia. And it was cool that he convinced all the, like, hundreds of white supremacists to leave that life of hate and bigotry, right? Because all the journey is through life is love and whatever, right? But he hasn't been able to help everyone, though. But it's cool that he had helped some throughout this journey. And he mentioned this, like, that some are beyond saving, but it doesn't stop him from trying. Now, some, not all, are open to conversation. Some are open to change. And he even gets gets some friends out of the whole deal here. Now, like, that's just a cool thing to me about this. Like, that's what fascinated me to this case. Like, it's for, like, a white racist organization to actually, like, be open and honest with a black man, right? I mean, that's fucking amazing. And even doing the interviews, like, with high-ranking members, like, that took a lot of fucking steel balls there. To walk around, like, even into those kind of buildings and be able to walk out. Like, all in all, like, there were a few fucking violent times, like, the guys carried guns. I mean, ignorance plays a fucking part in it all. I mean, that brings anger, then destruction. But he does remember some interviews with members, like, while the members were carrying guns. And at any time during these meetings, like, they could have easily whipped out a gun. During these interviews, like, I'm sure they got heated. I mean, the Klan members even made mention of, like, black people being more prone to violence. And the prison system statistics, like, they could show, like, more black men and women in prison than there are white people. Now, they also talk about, like, poverty playing a part in that. And one member's hatred kind of spewed out, like, about laziness, scamming the government, shitty test scores in high schools that stem from, like, low SAT scores. And that's just the offensive stuff that got to Davis. In reality, like, it doesn't matter what fucking skin color you are. Like, if you do crimes, you'll be put in jail, regardless. And if you focus on your studies, you'll get better grades. If you don't focus, you don't get better grades. Like, it's just common fucking knowledge. And there'd be, like, a little back and forth arguments in between the meetings and shit, I'm sure. Like, to the extent of like finger pointing, blaming one another for bombing churches, burning crosses, hanging people from trees. And this would almost like end up in violent encounters, but there's always like bigotry, hatred, anger, everything, right? Like it intertwines with everything. But more so, like the tension on that, like other KKK members like strolled in, they saw Davis hanging out in like an all-white building full of members. I mean, just craziness, I guess. But like all these meetings here, like they span from like 57 countries and 6 continents. Lots of members kind of like had a wall up when being interviewed, like trying to be tough as fuck. Especially like Robert Kelly at first in the beginning, but he was used to having someone push back at him during arguments and shit. But Davis didn't do that. And it was kind of like the Grand Wizard kind of like threw him off guard, like Davis threw him off guard. So he just opened up to him about the Klan. I mean, I assume he would just feel comfortable talking to the guy, right? And just a little known fact here, like, racism to some degree is cultural. For example, like back in the 1940s and 50s here, a lot of black people moved over to France. And why? Because the French didn't fucking care about race, and they treated them kindly. Not to say racism, like, isn't over that way. I mean, it's everywhere, right? But Davis, in all, he helped over 200 Klansmen. No, but he remembers some of them for, like, violence, beliefs, racism. And those are the ones he couldn't help, and he knows for sure that they would take that to their grave. Like, an example of this would be Charlottesville rally there that I mentioned. Now, at one point during the rally, a white supremacist tried to kill protesters by driving his vehicle head-on into the crowd, to which he succeeded. He hurt some. He murdered a young woman there by the name of Heather Heyer. Now, that man was James Fields, and he was found guilty of murdering that protester. In addition to, like, the first-degree murder, there were actually a few other various charges. They were 5 counts of aggravated malicious wounding, 3 counts of malicious wounding, and 1 count of a hit and run. And more so, like, those people that he injured with his vehicle and whatnot, right? Like, they needed justice too. Now, the prosecutor stated that Fields had felt remorse for his crimes, but they found that not to be true, because he actually shared a meme on the Instagram there, showing someone hitting a bunch of protesters with a car, with the caption, "You have the right to protest, but I'm late for work." And, see folks, the memes, they're gonna get you in trouble.
The crowd in Charlottesville showed up to protest a white supremacist rally. Despite the anger, no one expected this. The verdict reached today in a Virginia courtroom. James Fields deliberately plowed into the protesters, killing 32-year-old Heather Heyer and injuring 24 others. The 21-year-old found guilty of 10 criminal charges, including first-degree murder. He could spend the rest of his life in prison. The jury shown a series of photos of Fields' car before, during, and after he drove it into the crowd of protesters. Among the most dramatic pieces of evidence, a video taken moments after the incident, not yet released publicly. Fields could be heard asking police, "Are they okay?" He then sobbed when he learned that Heyer had died. The jury also heard a prison phone call between Fields and his mother. He became upset with her for sympathizing with Heyer's mother, saying she's a communist, an anti-white liberal. There was also this, a post Fields made on Instagram 3 months before the rally, an image that looked eerily similar to the real picture from that day. Fields' attorneys argued he felt threatened by the crowd and acted in self-defense, an argument the jury ultimately did not believe. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, New York.
I am extremely proud of my daughter. I'm extremely proud that she stood for what she believed in, that she not only gave mouth to it, but she gave heart to it, she gave soul to it, and now she's given her life to it. And the day she passed away was the day of the meteor showers that we used to go out and watch every year when she was a little girl. And so my child is now flying with the meteors. And I love her, and I miss her so, so much. But I'm going to make her death worth something. No mother should have to give up her 32-year-old child. And I know people die every day. I'm not special that way. But if my child's death was for a cause, I'm going to speak for that cause, and I'm going to make that cause important. I would grieve in private, but she stood for something, and by golly, I'm going to advocate that let's make that a strong movement, as my child was a strong child. And if it's going to mean that I have to bare my soul in front of people, then I'm going to do that in a way that's not going to cause more anger, that's not going to cause retaliation. It's not about getting even. It's about making that same spirit of change and equality and fairness and justice move forward.
Now, back in 2016, Davis had estimated that members had given him around 25 or 26 robes. Now, amongst those members that he talked to were notorious members like Chester Doyles, Tony Larishi, and Bob White. Now, Chester Doyles, at the beginning, he had become convinced that Davis had been a spy for the Anti-Defamation League, or some other clan-buster shit at first. Now, Davis's friends thought that his fascination with the Klan was very fucking odd, and some stated that he was a little eccentric. Now, when the crowd goes right, he goes left, they said. And Davis's father, William B. Davis, not the guy from the X-Files, but the other guy, now, he believed that his son started doing this to make sense of their hatred. And there's also a 2016 Netflix documentary out on this, too. And even though, music was this guy's passion, too, he did some acting. He was in HBO's The Wire, and he did some off-Broadway theater up in New York City. And he's also the owner of Lorad Music, and that's a music and publishing license business. And that's pretty much it, folks. I guess I'll end off with this note here. In Davis's words, he said, quote, "Ever since I graduated college in 1980, with my degree in music, I've been a full-time musician, traveling and performing all over America and the world. What I've come to find to be the greatest, most successful, and effective weapon that we can use to combat ignorance, racism, hatred, and violence is also known as the least expensive weapon, and the one that's very least used is communication." And that's it, folks. A little change of pace for once here. I thank you very much for tuning back in. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
There'll be those who will not look beyond the picture of me shaking hands with a Klansman in a robe and hood. And of course they'll have that visceral reaction like, what the hell is going on here?
It is something we never see. A black man attending KKK rallies where crosses are burning and racist views are being spewed.
Some of their beliefs are that African Americans, black people, are born with smaller brains, that we are inherently lazy, we are inherently prone to crime, raping people, especially white women.
Despite that offensive ideology, Daryl Davis has spent decades befriending members of the Ku Klux Klan. How do you talk to someone when someone's calling you the N-word?
Because you take the higher road. You know who you are.
There is one question Daryl has repeatedly asked members of the Klan.
How can you hate me when you don't even know me? They've never had an answer that they can come up with that justifies how they can hate me.
His conversations with Klansmen resulted in something Daryl never expected.
I would find things in common. And as I began to build on those commonalities, the things that we had in contrast as trivial as skin color began to matter less and less. And as I built upon those commonalities, a relationship was formed.
In the last 30 years, Daryl says 200 members across the country have left the KKK as a direct result of his involvement.
He was very vicious, very violent, and very racist. But at the very end, he said that he respected me.
Many of those who've left have given Daryl their robes and hoods. He keeps them in his home. It's a journey that is documented in the film Accidental Courtesy.
I consider Frank to be my friend.
I consider Daryl to be my friend as well.
What do you think about the current tension in America?
The culture of racism existed long before Donald Trump, long before President Obama, long before Bush or Clinton or whoever. We, American citizens, are to blame for fostering that culture of racism. Talking about race in this country has been taboo for a very long time. People don't want to talk about it.
Daryl believes the only way to end racism is to confront it head on.
Progress is made when you put somebody, give somebody a platform where they can express their views, even if you don't agree with them. When two enemies are talking, they're not fighting, they're talking. It's when the talking ceases that the ground becomes fertile for violence.
Twisted Tales.